So anxiety, emotions, how are we coping with those? I think this kind of really piggybacks a lot on the episode we recorded when you were talking about roles, responsibilities, and motivation.
It's responsibility, motivation, and reward.
Yes.
Reward, yep.
Yes. So
Absolutely.
go ahead. Responsibility, motivation, and reward.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the reason this episode is going to piggyback into that is because if we don't have those, remember how you were looking at, burnout, we talked about that, and that's just the manifestation of seeing these things come to fruition because we weren't proactive enough.
Right.
Well, today, when we're talking about how do we recognize, as my stomach is, no breakfast this morning, Pam, but when we talk about how anxiety comes to the surface, and that's a part of our emotional baggage that we carry day to day. And the processing of that is the important part.
Yeah. And even understanding what gets us to that state is different for you, for me, for Loki, for our kids. And recognizing that anxiety, just like stress, is an outcome of all the different things that cause that, right? So it's not just anxiety is, right? Anxiety is the end result.
Correct.
So you are not always in an anxious state, right? Something had to trigger that.
Yes.
A good example is yesterday. So I was coming back from travel yesterday, and Loki has been staying at the house by himself, which he's almost 20, so parents, guys, this is doable. I'm letting you know. You may not feel it right now, but my nonverbal 6-year-old now stays by himself at 19, fully functional without problems. And I say that because our parents need to know that this is just a storm sometimes that you're going through.
Sure.
So one of the things that you get anxiety about, one of the things he stresses out, which then causes him the anxiety is the house ready for mom?
Yes, it's mostly not, I wouldn't even say it's an anxiety, but it's a fear that causes an anxiety.
Okay.
Because I would like to lead to like a different point entirely soon after this, but I'd like to say that having that rush is similar to like something of being like scared about like what's going to happen sooner or later, because I feel like almost everybody who has a parent that says they're coming over, kind of like you have to bring up your best material and to make sure that they don't explode like, wow, you failed me, you can't even clean your own house, it's like,
well, no, because he hits, because we're talking about young adults.
Yeah.
And so as a young adult, like he said, when the parents come over, well, I don't care, young adult, 40-year-old, 30-year-olds, we all still go in that, our parents are coming over.
Yep, the house ain't clean enough for mom. Yep.
Exactly.
Let's get started.
So this is actually a perfect topic to actually dive into, because it is a non-age requirement.
Absolutely.
2-year-olds are learning to clean up their toys. 5-year-olds are learning to clean up in the school classroom. Teenagers, well, we won't even talk about that, because all teenagers have some, and I say this across the board, all teenagers, even in my own, Manny, we've seen it even in the school and therapy, college, being around this environment, everyone goes through this transition of understanding when those responsibilities become part of your daily routine.
Yeah, when I would like to say something as well. I'd like to consider that I feel like anxiety and burnout are two sides of the opposite coin of negative emotions.
Okay.
Because I'd like to state that if burnout is this whole like exhaustion of like running your emotions dry and trying to get everything done, anxiety is the opposite of that, because it's the thought of having to do everything at once because you need to do it in the first place, and to make sure that all the stuff in the list is checked off, and to...
Absolutely. And I want to trigger into that, because what you just nailed is a lot of things that people don't understand. They think it is a physical manifestation. And you are right. It is a mental process that we are causing within ourselves. Yeah. Anxiety is a self-stimulated response. So we are triggering that physical response by looking at how do we cope with those stressors?
Yep.
Okay. And so just like here on the podcast, where we've been trying to give a toolbox full of resources, this is the same thing that you've got to do for whether it's your children, whether it's your grandkids, whether it's your staff, whether it's, your colleagues, whether it's your friends, whether it is you.
Yourself, yeah. I was thinking yourself.
Is sitting back, and as someone who, man, high energy, carry high anxiety, I'm like, I could write a book on this one. It is stepping back from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And Loki, this is one of the things that I admire about our neurodivergent population, is because at least within you and your reflection for me, you process much better than neurotypical. You make sure that I've got checklists. And so then that's what we do is like, okay, so where's the task list? And now if you go through each task list, then you are itemizing, checking off, so you know that you've completed what you needed to.
I have the power of foresight.
Yeah.
Do you recall, just out of curiosity, because, and I don't think I've ever asked you this, but since it came up, I'm sure parents are like, so when did that start for you guys? Like, when did he start to become so expressive and being able to like implement those kind of things?
Okay, so, I'm going to go back. Even when he was nonverbal, when we were using PECS, which is the picture identification system, where a child who doesn't have vocal expressive language will bring a picture to represent the expressive language. Even when that was going on, we still had task list. So in the school system, like brush your teeth, the little picture cons that would go through each one of the motions. We started that when he was 4 or 5. That was kind of like the independent joke on that was because then he would go get something out of the refrigerator on his own, not be able to use any words. I mean, I can remember when, the gallon jugs were as big as his head and here he is still trying to get it out of the refrigerator by himself. But I know where you're going into. When did you really get into task list giving to him so that he can maintain?
As a coping mechanism, because you were talking about, so as they go older, as kids get older, they have different ways of showing anxiety, right? From the very infant, toddler age, they're crying, they whine, they throw a tantrum, whatever.
4 years old, Manny.
Wow. That's incredible.
You do it. You don't realize it. Most parents do, and you just don't realize it. The reality is sticker charts. Do you remember the scratch and sniff stickers?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. We were taking and building task list and reward system, token economy systems with those, not even knowing it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So what we think about as a list, okay? So like when you have a list, Loki, we're going, how do we make this age appropriate throughout the generational gaps here? Well, at 4, you could have brush your teeth, wash your face, put your clothes on.
Yep.
And not where they then mark off because they're still learning handwriting, but then you put the stickers, and a lot of our family stores, massive stores out there, you can go into the learning section and they have these chore boards, they have task sheets, and they're built for kindergarten. These should already be implemented by kindergarten because you're already teaching roles and responsibilities. I mean, guys, we're all here on media. This is how you're either listening or watching this podcast, and you'll see in a lot of Middle Eastern or Asian schools, the first lessons are in taking care of oneself and taking care of the home. And they learn then through these tasks, which I am 100% on board because think about our early intervention center. Everything we do in early intervention is hands-on learning.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's not dictation. It's not, let me tell you how to learn. Let me show you. Now we're walking you through and let me go blow that volcano up. Let's talk about that Play-Doh and how can we shape it. But then just like we've said before, we have to give them the skills to clean it up so that mom and dads, grandma, grandpas, aunts, uncles, or teachers aren't stopping themselves from engaging because then they're like, oh, well, how am I going to clean all this up by myself? No, because if the kids are part of making the mess, they should be part of cleaning it up. And that again goes into the task list.
And I think we're hitting a home run on a couple of like key tips, right? So one is like task list, checklist, things like that. Why is that a coping mechanism? Well, most of the time when we're anxious, we're in a heightened state of like we can't see the forest from the trees, that old expression, right? So what does a task list and a checklist give us? It gives us a roadmap. It gives us that understanding of like, okay, this is what's in my control. But the other thing you also mentioned too, so that the other tip was having a model or having a coach, right? So the parent, the therapist, that person's okay, this is cleanup. This is, the kid's anxious for that. But we can even extrapolate that to adulthood, right?
Yes.
Hey, Pam, I need advice, right? You need a coach, you need a mentor, because I am in this heightened state of anxiety and I don't know which way to go. And I think we lose sight of that as parents. We're coaches, we're mentors, therapists, teachers. We're all helping that kid go through that anxious time. That coaching, mentoring role is super important. And that's a great coping strategy, is to get help.
Well, I'm going to go full circle. You're going to love this one. Think about your friends on Discord.
I wanted to say something while y'all were entirely
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to add on to the conversation about the list and the stickers and all of that.
Okay.
You could say that no matter what age you are and no matter what school you're in or what state of education you're in, that list does bring the responsibility, the motivation of wanting to get all your stickers so you could possibly go to Treasure Box and a reward from Treasure Box. And I wanted to say also, from the start of the episode, I wanted to talk about how RMR affects with anxiety and all of that.
Okay.
Nice.
I wanted to say that if burnout is this whole state of the motivation running out, I say anxiety is the fault of responsibility achieving too high.
Okay, so I can see so what he's saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you have put so much responsibility on you, this is where the anxiety comes from.
Yes, where you feel like you have to hold up everything by your back.
You're doing it all by yourself. And that then goes right back to what you're saying is the coaching.
Yes.
And coaching can come in so many different forms. That's where I was making the connection to your Discord.
Yeah.
Is because your friendships there become your coaches. Your peers become your coaches. And, this is really good because as parents of neurodivergent children, we isolate. And we cocoon into our homes because we don't want to share, because we feel, and I speak from personal, even having the school, there are things that are personal in our house that I'm like, well, are they dealing with that?
Or do they understand?
Yes. Is that just, an autism thing?
Is that a neurodivergent thing? Or is that a me thing? I can't really connect with my child about this whole topic because what if they don't understand? And then I make them incredibly awkward. And then I pull them away from what they feel comfortable with.
Yes.
So that way, now we just have this moment where we both don't know what to say to each other. It just feels like a waste of time.
And that's where we always talk about networks and communities.
Yes.
The power of that, whether it's an official coach or an informal coach or just somebody to talk to kind of navigate those waters of when, hey, I'm taking on all this responsibility, whether I'm a student or I'm a teacher or I'm an adult or a business person, or even that toddler, the too much responsibility for toddlers, all this I got to clean up. Are you kidding me? And they get super anxious.
And then they shut down.
And so it's boiling it down, breaking it down, okay, so let's talk about responsibility and what is it we're asking and breaking it down.
I wanted to say another thing as well, is that if you're having trouble with trying to connect with your child and don't want to take them away from what they're comfortable with, if they're playing with toys, if they're talking with friends, if they're I say at least try to, if they're far away at a party or something, or they're socializing, at least call them on their phone if they're far away, or if they're still in their house, you could fit normal conversation topics while trying to discuss what y'all want to have for dinner.
Yes. So what he's saying is the communication.
Yes.
And he's so key on that because, in our work, we deal with kids left and right. And especially at the high school, when we sit down and I'm like, well, what did you all talk about at dinner last night? Oh, we grab the plate and we go up to our room.
Yeah.
How many families actually sit down and have these communication conversations at the dinner table anymore? They don't.
Yeah.
But what you're honing in on is something that we do in our household.
Yes.
Communication with Loki and I is extremely important.
Yes.
There is not a day, whether I'm traveling or not, that we do not
At
communicate.
least once.
I was going to say
Like,
once, if not 3 or 4 times.
yeah, but like I'd say at least if you're trying to talk with your neurodivergent son or daughter or whatever, some of the type, just simply give them a call, just saying, hey, what's up? Is everything all right? Because you don't even have to come up with a topic. Just simply saying, is everything all right? And sure, you might usually get the, yeah, I'm fine. You like, just because they'll probably think it's an obligation to say they're fine.
Right. And that's something else that he triggers in, is that a lot of times we need to make sure that when we are speaking with our children, that we want them to be honest. Do not go into a conversation with your loved one with the expectation that they need to impress or say what you want to hear.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we talk about masking, which you've done such a great job doing, is that the neurodivergent population feel that they have got to put a mask on or meet these expectations that may not be their own,
Right.
or agree with the status quo even though they don't agree.
Yeah, they feel like they can't really speak out to higher authorities and like try to question that. They don't want to, because that would cause like some sort of quarrel, that would cause something that they don't really want to happen. So instead they just end up being quiet and just
That's an ineffective coping skill.
Correct.
Right? It's almost it almost becomes a volcanic eruption at some point down the road. But their coping strategy is don't say anything.
Yes.
And
that
psychologists, teachers all over the world would say that's the opposite of what you do, right?
and wrapping all the way back to coaching and anxiety, that causes anxiety in the first place, bottling it in and always having
100%.
the requirements and expectations that people want to bring with you.
But that's where you're just hitting the key there, is that we have to remember that parent, aunt, uncle, caregiver, coach, whatever word you're going to use for being the person to be there to support your loved one, you need to ensure that it is not within your parameters.
Right.
It is coming with the grace that you're giving the person you're trying to assist. And so part of that is we don't want our children to feel that they have to be something that they're not.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you go into these conversations, go into them with honesty and with understanding. And sometimes agreeing to disagree is okay. You want to eliminate a lot of the stressors, go into a conversation with your son or daughter and say, hey, you and I may not agree with this, but I'm coming because I'm going to stand beside you.
Yeah.
I want to support you, but I need your help in understanding where you're coming from.
Don't make your son or daughter or your loved one a yes man. Just so that they could be an exact replica of you.
Oh, I think that kind of eliminates probably 25% of the stress and anxiety that we see when we're talking about in education and in early intervention and in therapeutic services and even in our high schoolers as we get called in to help in these areas.
Right.
A lot of times it's mom and dad. Whose expectations are you asking Johnny and Sally to live up to? Is this their mission or is this yours?
Yeah.
And I can tell you this past weekend, I was, at a ceremony this weekend and mommy issues came up. And so many people that are carrying, and I say mommy issues, it can be daddy issues. But what I'm seeing in my coaching business is a lot of built up, regressed trauma response from expectations that our parents have put on us. And at later adulthood, we find that we're living a life that our parents wanted and not the life we wanted.
Yeah.
And I think that builds at an early age.
Because
the stress, the anxiety, because I think
it builds at an early age because of the fact that Johnny can't really say no to the parents because they just want to just do what they need to do that are tasked with them.
But Loki, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Because we need to break the mold of parenting.
Correct.
That there should always be in safety and well-being. The parents, yes, will put rules, regulations, policies in order to protect the safety. But we're talking about developing the psyche of the child.
Yeah.
And that needs to man, I'm probably going to piss off a lot of our watchers here. Parents, our job as parents are to bring these beautiful beings into existence. Our job as parents is to love these wonderful beings. But they already came here on a mission, their own individuality.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of making them into our own model or mold, we have to go back to what was Loki supposed to do? What's little Sally supposed to do? What's Johnny want to do? And then help shape that. But so many times I hear where I'm taking care of mom, I'm taking care of dad.
Right.
And at an early age, we could go over to the elementary school and I can go into the 5th and 6th grade classroom and hear students talking about, I got to make sure mom's doing this, or I got to make sure dad is okay with this. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this responsibility shift here.
Yeah.
And our children are here to be children. And we have got to make sure that we are giving them and allowing them the time to be kids.
Yeah.
There's a difference between giving them a task and giving them there's a difference between giving them a responsibility and then giving them a job at the house. Because like sometimes when you try to take care of somebody,
Yes.
it could feel like you're the only one that's like responsible for that job in the first place. And I'm not saying that children should never have chores or never have jobs, but like
I get it. You're saying make this the family. It is a family unit, not just the one person.
Yeah, at least let them know that they granted they're probably not going to know at a young age, but once they're at a teenager age,
yes,
let them know that they're not alone in doing the job, and it's not their responsibility.
Well, I think this keys in on something that I haven't studied this, right? But I think we've all experienced probably in the last 10 years or less, post-COVID probably, we've seen like this huge surge of anxiety for adults with the economy, with politics, with job loss, with job insecurity, like all these things, right? That sometimes we poke fun of in the media, like the cost of eggs is like the new thing, right?
Yeah.
But take that for what it is. It's just overall. What we're seeing also is that anxiety of adults, what we're feeling as adults, we are pushing that anxiety to our kids. And I would say, like, arguably, I don't think we're doing it on purpose.
No.
Like, I don't think parents are like saying, you're going to do all this other stuff you're not used to. And I know you're 14, but that's okay. You're going to do it anyway. I think it's just by virtue of that anxiety and not knowing how to deal with it all.
Correct.
And so then we're pushing it on kids, and now the kids are feeling the anxiety too.
You got it.
Yeah.
You can teach finances, but you can't complain about a budget if you haven't taught the child finances.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you're coming into the house and you do have the financial stressors that the world is feeling right now as we're going through these changes and shifts, we need to make sure, just like in the workplace, if, we have the whole thing, check it at the door.
Yeah.
Our kids already have enough going on. Leave your drama at the door. It's the same thing with the house, is that we've got to make sure that our business and adult drama is not being brought into a kid's level.
Yeah.
Because like we've talked about, kindergartners shouldn't be having ulcers.
I bet.
Right. Exactly. Or even talking about anxiety at their age.
Correct.
Like we talk.
Let's just go play, make mud patties and play hide and go seek and be kids. And this I think is where it comes in. As adults, we are starting our children too early.
Yeah.
Dr. Joe Dispenza speaks about how the human body in the flight or fight mode.
Mm-hmm.
And this is exactly what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And we are not beings that were made to stay in the flight or fight mode constantly. But our body's autonomic nervous system currently is now normalizing stress.
Yeah, we've been conditioned.
And it's not normal.
Right.
And so once
we get anxiety, we put that onto our kids.
Well, yes. And we're teaching them at this early age that this is now part of our life.
Yeah. We shouldn't teach our kids to live with it.
No, get meditation in there instead of anxiety.
Yeah.
Get your kindergartners on the floor with you, and having that quiet time to bond as a family is so much more important.
Let them lay on the floor. Let them like take deep breaths whenever they're upset. Get them to learn coping skills at an early age. That way they could all learn how to deal with all this stress and anxiety and burnout and all of this stuff that eventually they're going to have to deal with because all the responsibilities are going to pile up on them one day.
Right.
But do you know what I hear out of all this? And it's so funny because I feel like I'm having this epiphany on air. This is all self-induced pressures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have put all of these pressures on us. The list to make sure everything gets done. The audit, we've got to get this done. When do we take life back to simplicity?
Mm. Isn't that the question of the day? Of the
You know,
age,
I mean, I think that's, and that's what we have to. And I think we have to take it from the aspect that when we reflect on what we're doing to our kids who came in
Yep.
untainted, no bad programs,
No history, no nothing.
clean slate,
Mm-hmm.
and we are projecting all of our adult
insecurities
and needs
Mm-hmm.
at such an early level, we've got to make a stop.
Yeah.
We've got to. So we talked about coping skills. For me, as we're closing out the episode, I would hone in on, like we said, coaching. Have someone to talk to. Find someone that you can soundboard with.
Yeah.
And not someone that's the yes man, as Loki said.
Mhm.
Yes.
You do not want it to
No.
be. It's the friend that actually questions you. That's the true friend.
Mhm.
The friend that goes, no, Pam, no, I don't agree with that. Have you
Right.
looked at it like this?
Mhm.
That's the friend you want. You
Mhm.
don't want the friend that just goes, yeah, you're right, 100%. Just do that. Just do that. No, you want someone that will challenge you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and challenge your children. Sit down and have those discussions. But that means you've got to be a full-time mom, dad, or caregiver. And that
Mhm.
means not a helicopter. I come in, swoop down, and then I leave.
Right.
This has to be something that you implement and you start, not just when there's already the high level of stress in the home.
Try to teach them meditation, something along those lines, as like, because I'm gonna be honest, the only coping skill I learned was just heavy breathing. And so if you just teach them something about, like, say, hey, if you're upset, go into like a corner and think about things. Because I can make this like an entire episode on its own, but like punishments,
Yes.
so many kids think that the punishment is always the bad thing.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah.
And most of the time the punishment doesn't work, does it?
Yeah, because the kids don't want to do the punishment.
Right.
Mhm.
And so the punishment is just a threat.
Yeah.
And
They're going to
it's
avoid it.
correct.
Mhm.
And there's no way to actually, like you said, put any tools in the toolbox if all it is punishment. It's
Yeah.
not learning.
Yeah.
So what about you, Manny?
So for my final tip, I would say, one of the things to recognize about anxiety is the word out of control. So when you're in that anxious state, things are just seemingly out of control. So what's my tip is find the one or two things that you can actually have control on.
Nice.
So when you're in that anxious state, what do I have control over? And then tackle that and build along that line.
It's so funny because you're saying that and I'm going,
You know exactly.
we have a
where-
lot of nonverbal children that
Mhm.
do this. And sometimes, especially when we're talking about potty training, it is the only thing they have in their control and they
Mhm.
grab onto it.
Mhm.
So that's a really good tip there, Manny. So moms and dads, caregivers worldwide, we're here for you. We are going to build this toolbox day by day and week by week. So come on back to Pam and the Purple Couch podcast. We'll see you all soon.